the Cookiepocalypse, how to boost conversions with zero-party data. Ben, for so long we've known each other. How long? We've known each other since when?
Since long before I think you even started Founder Made. It's been a long time.
As everyone has their journeys in entrepreneurship, I had a digital media company previously. Ben knew me in a different life as a tech blogger, entrepreneur, and Ben, tell us your whole background, because I think also what's so amazing to see is how your background kind of progressed into Octane AI, and how you have really kind of are really innovating in the industry.
I mean, I think you and I met when I was the co-editor and editor at large of Mashable, the tech news website. Ran the West Coast, wrote 2,446 articles. I did everything afterwards. I wrote a best-selling book for HarperCollins called Captivology on the science and psychology of attention. And
awesome book, by the way. I loved it. Congratulations. Yes. And anyone who wants to, it's still actually extremely relevant now. So yeah, keep going.
It is extremely relevant. I talk a little bit about it in the presentation, but I've done everything from start a VC fund on behalf of celebrities to joining the boards of the AI data training company Somasource, founded by Lila Jana, to co-founding Octane AI, which we power, and we'll talk about it, the zero-party data marketing and data collection for thousands of Shopify and e-commerce brands, including for Shopify themselves.
It's crazy. And you guys haven't even been around for that long. I mean, you've been around long, but I mean, in the e-commerce world, Shopify, I guess Shopify, but I guess in the tech, but it's amazing that you've been able to, scale as quickly as you have. So any lessons learned while scaling a tech product for D2C companies?
I think I'm gonna have to write several books to try to go and talk about that. Scaling is so hard, but it's so awesome when you can.
I mean, it's so huge. It's so, well, you're gonna have to write another book. That's for sure. A couple books on that. So with that, I'll let you start the conversation. And again, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Megan. Thank you, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen in a second. I'm going to be talking about a lot of some of the themes that we just heard in the last panel about zero-party data and why it's so important now and why personalization matters so much. So hello, everybody. I am Ben Parr, and I am going to be talking about how to survive the cookie apocalypse and how you use zero-party data to dramatically boost conversions. And so kind of a quick overview of what I'll be talking about. I'll be talking about what the problem that a lot of e-commerce brands are facing, and you probably face it if you have had any impact on your ads this year. So rented relationships versus real relationships. Then I'll be talking about what zero-party data marketing actually is, actually defining it, talking about how to collect zero-party data, and finally, how to personalize your marketing with zero-party data. So I already did the introduction, so I really don't have to do any more of this. And I kind of give you a little bit of Octane AI, but I want to kind of give you what the result of doing great zero-party data marketing looks like. So this is Hunter and Gather. They are an Octane AI customer, but they also implemented a zero-party data strategy. And by using tools like a quiz to collect zero-party data and then leveraging it in their email and in their SMS, they were able to increase their revenue from their flows by 258%. And increase their revenue from campaigns by 82%. And this is very common if you implement this. And we'll talk about how you actually get these kinds of results by implementing zero-party data marketing. So let's talk about the problem, why the baby is crying. So there's two problems, in fact. One, Shopify and e-commerce brands in general have been building their business on top of rented relationships. And two, Apple's completely destroyed the way that e-commerce brands have done business. And what do I mean by that? What do I mean by rented relationships? So typical ad strategy, this is probably very familiar for any of you who run Facebook ads. You have a prospecting ad, you track behavior of the Facebook pixel, they come to the site, they leave, and you use retargeting ads to bring people back. Typical ad strategy over the last decade that has built some of the biggest e-commerce brands, your Allbirds, the ones that are IPOing right now. And this works because ads were cheap, it brought a lot of people in, you could optimize it. The problem now is that it is a rented relationship. In most of these cases, you actually don't have the contact info. Facebook has that, or the other ad provider. You don't have the direct relationship. You have to pay each time for that relationship. So if someone leaves, they don't give you their email address, you're paying Facebook again to bring people back. And, you know, again, it was cheap before, that was fine. It's different now because Facebook owns this relationship, you're just renting it. But Apple broke this entire model earlier this year. So I had to have the Steve Jobs deal with it, as you can see. What happened, as many of you probably know, is iOS 14.5. iPhone users were given the power to opt out of tracking out of all of their apps, including Facebook. And the result was, and I used it was that 96% of US users opted out of data tracking. And this number is consistent. All across the world, most people are opting out of getting tracked. And the results for this is that if someone says that they don't want Facebook to track them, you can't really show them retargeting ads. Facebook mostly has to guess at what kind of audience you have. And so the result for lots of e-commerce brands, and I wish I could virtually see your hands raised in the air, is that for a lot of e-commerce brands, their conversion rates and ads have dropped. Their ability to bring new people in has gone up. And for some businesses, it's fundamentally altered the way they have to do business. And this is a real problem. And this problem is about to be compounded by what we call the Cookiepocalypse, which is, I call stage 2 of this huge change in data privacy. So the Cookiepocalypse is Google eventually, sometime in 2023, killing off support for third-party cookies and moving to a whole new system called Flock, which does cohort-based ads. The result is that the traditional way that you've done third-party cookies, that you've done retargeting ads, is breaking and will go away and is not coming back. This is a fundamental change to how we have done e-commerce. So what does this mean? Your ad conversion rates have already dropped, or they will drop. Retargeting ads based on third-party data are going away, and brands must collect data directly. And so in the past, you've relied on third-party data, and that was okay. It's no longer okay. The only way in which to make sure you don't, frankly, die, and that you are built for the future is to start building your own data set on your own customers and make them and have that direct relationship with them. So now is the time to adapt. So here's what you need to do. Step 1, stop relying on pixel-based ads and third-party data. So it's never going to go away. You're going to always still want to go and do it, but you need to have a healthier mix of ways to bring people in. We heard a little bit before, TikTok, lots of other ways. You have to not rely on a single channel anymore, because a single channel, as we have learned, can be taken away. And step 2, we need to focus on building your own relationships and getting to know your site visitors. And this is what we call the real relationship. And so how do you do this? You use zero-party data marketing. So you've probably heard this term a lot. Let's talk about what it actually means. So this is kind of the basic process of zero-party data marketing. Step 1, you attract new people to the website. Step 2, you ask them questions. Step 3, you recommend products. And step 4, you personalize the campaigns and flows. And you do this by asking questions and using this data to personalize the recommendations that you give. And so to give you an example, what these data pieces mean, because I feel like definitions need to be thrown around a little bit here. Third-party data. This is data you're borrowing from third-party aggregators. They're aggregating it almost anonymously across a large group of people. This is what all ad platforms do, not just Facebook or Google, but any ad platform. First-party data is data that you directly track. So this is behavior data. So Google Analytics, what someone clicked, what someone purchased, that's first-party data. You know that behavior, you do own that data. That's important data. But there's a level deeper, and that's zero-party data. And that's data that's directly volunteered to you by your customers. This is data where they're telling you what they're looking for, who they are, what they're shopping for, who they're shopping for. This is, and I like to use in person, like the real world equivalent. This is the equivalent to the person, the associate, the concierge in a retail store, asking questions, being like, what's your shoe size? You know, what kind of color are you looking for? What kind of style? And using that information to make recommendations. You're doing the same thing, but on your website, in your SMS, in your email, you're using different tools. And we'll talk about those tools like quizzes and surveys in a second. But these are what zero-party data points actually are. And so each industry has different kinds of zero-party data points, but this gives you kind of an idea. In beauty, which is probably one of the industries that most uses the strategy, they're asking about like skin type, skin concern, what your allergies are, and they're using that to recommend the right kind of skin routine or the right kind of products for you. In food and beverage, it'll probably be things about taste profile, allergies, consumption habits. For pets, it'd be like, a cat, a dog, the age. These are the kinds of questions you want to ask in order to make these detailed product recommendations. And these are the zero-party data points that you want to leverage to personalize the emails you send, the text messages you send, and to have the same kinds of huge conversion rate increases that you see with brands like Hunter and Gather. So, how to build your own relationship with site visitors. Step one, get contact info. So you want to get that email address or phone number. In the past, it was okay to have a 2%, 3% conversion rate. It's no longer good enough. You want to convert them as quickly as possible so that you have to do as little retargeting ad as possible. Step two, you want to learn about these site visitors. You want to learn their concerns and preferences. And step three, you want to ask the right questions of these customers and of these prospects. You want to ask them the questions that are going to help build a long-term relationship and help you give the right kind of product recommendations and personalization that you need to really grow. So we've covered the problem and we've covered what zero-party data marketing actually is. How do you actually collect it? The big question. So there's a couple of key tools to go in collecting it, but to kind of give the key message here, you need to ask questions. Any way and method that you can ask questions of customers will really help you collect zero-party data. That is the essence of zero-party data. It is different ways to ask questions and getting directly volunteered answers. So let's talk about pop-ups first. Pop-ups have historically been the best way to get contact information. Most e-commerce brands do this, but pop-ups haven't really changed that much in a decade. This is kind of what they currently look like. You've probably seen it. You probably even do this. I'm going to offer a discount and get an email address. It works, but the average conversion rate is 2 to 6%. And it's not giving you any zero-party data. Again, fine in the past, but you need to get zero-party data from any kind of place. There's a new type of pop-up that's been popping up over the last 6 months or so, year or so, called conversational pop-up. And you can kind of see how instead of just asking for an email address first, it asks a question that can help the customer, like, what are you looking for? How can I help you? And then gets an email address or phone number, makes a product recommendation directly within the pop-up. And this is kind of what that flow looks like. I love these flow charts, by the way. You can see like I can ask a question, get a contact piece of info, recommend products, and then save and sync that data and use that in my email and in my SMS and etc. So to kind of give you a sense of what those conversion rates look like, 15 to 20% of people on average will answer a question. In fact, for some, it's a third or higher. And this is a huge increase to the conversion rates and the engagement rates of regular pop-ups. Half of people who answer a question opt in with email. Again, a much bigger increase in opt-in rates. And then, about a third or so even of people who submit an email will complete a purchase. This is a huge increase in sales as well. It's a win all across the board. And here's a couple of examples of what a conversational pop-up can look like. And this is like the first piece of collecting zero-party data, the simplest implementation. Ask a single question, get a single data point, and then you can reference that in the email that you send them right afterwards. We'll talk about how to do that, or in the SMS message you send them. We'll also talk about that. So this is like an example. You can see, these brands asking like what they're looking for. You can ask they're asking what kind of flavors you're looking for. And this gives them the chance to learn some zero-party data. So part one. The second one, and probably the core to most zero-party data strategies, is a product quiz. And so product quizzes are all across e-commerce. This, I almost hate the word quiz. It's more like a guided shopping experience. It is the digital version of that concierge in the store. And so for most customers coming to your website, they don't know what they're looking for. They need a little bit of help, especially if you're in a category where you have multiple options, or they need to get some more comfort before they go and buy. A quiz can be a great way to pre-sell them, and it can be a great way to make the right recommendation so they have confidence in the purchase. So product quizzes connect customers with advice, guidance, or recommendations. You guys can recommend what kind of products to go and buy. And product quizzes identify the customer's buyer profile and helps match them to the right product. So you can get lots of zero-party data points through something like a quiz, a guided shopping experience, however you want to go and call it. And then, use that and leverage that data in your marketing. And so example of the flow that it can look like. By the way, there's a whole playbook that has all of these diagrams. It's octaneai.com/playbook. So you can always go download that if you want to go see all of these diagrams, because I know I'm moving fast. So, but you can see here, collecting these key data points is a skincare example, and then collecting the email or phone number. Again, because people want to get these results in their email, what we see is that people will opt in at a 30, 40, 50% rate when they are asked for their email or phone number in one of these guided shopping experiences. It does dramatically increase the amount of contact info you collect. You recommend products, and then you store this data, and then you can personalize. And these quizzes can look like a lot of different things. So here's a couple of examples. We can see these different brands, beauty, fashion, whatever, asking different questions. You can even kind of see, I'll even show you Glennetic, huge lash brand. They have 5 different ones here. And so you can actually see right here, and I know I'm just doing the live demo. So they ask some questions. You tried magnetic lashes before? Look over here. Do you have a crease? Getting really detailed, but the details actually really important to making a really strong quiz or guided shopping experience. Now, because imagine if you only asked one question like, hey, I know you're looking for shoes. What shoe size are you? 10. Great. I have the perfect shoes for you. That makes no sense. You need to ask more questions to actually give the recommendation. You don't want to ask too many. You don't want to ask 20 questions, but you don't want to ask too few either. Think about how many questions you'd have to actually ask in a human conversation to make these kinds of recommendations. And so you can see here in the Glamnetic quiz, they're asking for my email address. They're usually asking about 10 questions. They have this cool loading screen that talks about how awesome their product is by other customers, providing social proof. And then here's the perfect lash for there. And you can see right here, they can actually add subscription. They can add one time. Super, super cool, super awesome. You can see how beautiful and how all that sort of thing can be. So product quizzes, super powerful for collecting this data. There's other methods too that I want to talk about. So surveys, post-purchase, really awesome too, to collect this data. Where do they come from? Are they going to shop again? Even places like support or, back and forth on text message, you can collect the zero-party data too. The biggest thing is that you need to have a way to structure it, that it is in a database of some kind, so that you can reference it later in your email, in your SMS, wherever you need it to be. So that was a super short version. I know there's so much more. By the way, if you want to talk about this more, at BenParr, BenParr on Twitter or on social. I'm Ben at octaneai.com, just to make sure that if we go over some stuff and you have more questions. And I know there's some Q&A. I'm going to look at the comments. There's a lot of comments in the chat. I'm purposely not clicking on them just yet. I will in a second. So let's talk about personalizing. This is actually the most important part of zero-party data marketing. Collecting this data, you're going to make money, a lot of money. But the real money and the real power and the best experience for your customer is using this for personalization. Personalizing it over email, over SMS, over ads. And so that flow, you're collecting this data, you're storing this data, and then you're putting and using this data in your email and in your SMS. And so in this example, it could customize what the title is. It could customize what the text says. It could customize what the products are recommended are. And what we've seen is if you personalize your welcome sequence, for example, especially if your first one is somewhere around here's your recommendations, you see a dramatic increase in your revenue. This is the kind of thing that helped Hunter and Gather make significantly more revenue by doing this little bit of personalization. So here's an example of what that can look like. Again, I love my flowcharts. So you can see someone takes a quiz, they get a personalized email about the results instead of a generic email. And then they can even personalize what kind of email they get based on if they said they were a nighttime routine or a daytime routine. You can see the personalization lanes, and you can go as simple as you want or as complex as you want. One piece of advice: start simple. Start with even just changing what the text is in the titles of some of your emails based off this data you collect. Then go and build in more advanced. Start with anything. Start with even just a conversational pop-up to collect one piece of data and reference it once. You will see an impact. then go out and do more. Get a simple quiz up and then go and build a more complex. You don't want to wait 6 months to go and get started with this. You want to be doing this immediately. Post-purchase is also impacted too. You can see, for example, this is a workout example. I can say if I work out a lot, I could have like workout routine recommendations. If I work out a little, it could be recommendations on food instead. And you could personalize every aspect of this customer journey. And again, over time, it'll get more personalized. You will tinker around, you will make more revenue. But the key is you need to collect and have this data to even do this. So now is the best time to start collecting this data, because you don't want to have to start collecting this data once Google has removed third-party cookies, because then it'll be too late. Your competitors will have already done it. One other area where this data can be very useful is in your ads themselves. So we've talked about how ads have been impacted by iOS 14.5, iOS 15, but you can use this data set that you're collecting to help personalize the ads. As a simple example, if you know what kind of animal that your customer has, pretend you're a pet store, you can use this data to personalize the products, the like retargeting ad. You can be like, okay, they're a dog person. You didn't even have to collect the email address to do this. It'll like track with the Facebook pixel. Then you can show them an ad for dog food instead of generic food. You can already tell just by me talking about this, this will have a major impact on your conversion rates. And this will allow you to start building custom audiences based on the way that your customers answered questions. So you could make a custom audience and target ads based off of, or even a lookalike audience based off dog lovers, cat lovers, and start using that. And you will see results, and you will see strong results by doing this. So I've covered a lot of topics here. I want to make sure I hopefully can answer a couple of questions. But overall, when it comes to zero-party data marketing, it is a 3-step process. It really is a 2-step process. It is collect this data and then leverage this data for personalization. And this data has, in the past been a nice to have, and we've seen success with brands like Stitch Fix and others implementing it, but now it's a must have because of all the changes that have happened in the e-commerce ecosystem, that have happened because of iOS 14.5. And so I only was able to cover a little bit of what's been happening. Hopefully this is helpful for you in terms of being able to personalize your like e-commerce and Shopify and other experiences, and that this will give you the tools to really build a beautiful zero-party data marketing strategy and zero-party data collection. I'm happy to answer questions, give more advice, but I just want to say, thank you so much for having me and having me talk about this really important topic for the world of e-commerce. Oh my goodness, look at all the comments. Hi, Megan.
So we have a lot of speakers, and I just have to say, my goodness, everyone wants to know you. You are a celebrity at the Founder Made, our last virtual show. So there's a lot of different. I think what would be great. Well, first of all, the playbook. We're going to put that link. Everybody's got the good. I'm glad that's in there. There's just so much to uncover. But Ben, I love the idea of diversity. And so if you were to say, is there a ranking of where you diversify your resources, right now, and as you see where the industry is going, I understand, okay, maybe do if you're a beauty brand, you do something different strategy, but is there a standard way that you would think if you were to do a pie chart of 20% Facebook ads, 20%, whatever the differentiator, anything that you see on how to really market and get that data as things are changing and shaping up?
It's hard to figure out what the pie chart should look like, because it depends on customer to customer, right? So a couple of just thoughts, because I'm not on this topic, because I have been asked this a lot. So there's a different pie chart for what you should do to get people to the website, and there's a different pie chart of what you should be doing once people go to the website. I think of them as almost two separate things. Getting people to the website, there's just a diversity of different channels that you have at your disposal. Facebook is still just a big part of it, and Instagram, but we were hearing, or before, you're talking about TikTok, you're talking about influencers, you're talking about co-marketing, you're talking about PR, you're talking about in-person experiences. It's just, go and make multiple different channels. As soon as you can start to master one, go and add another channel so that you are multi-layered and multifaceted. And all these like different ones have their strengths and weaknesses. And we could go for hours talking about some of these things, but you want to just have at least like, 4 to 5 different ways that customers discover you. And so that you are never dependent upon just one. And even in those verticals, like, ads as an example, not just, Facebook ads, but there's, other platforms, there's Google, there's TikTok, there's a bunch of others. You want to go and experiment, and each brand is really, really different on that front. On the website, it is all about collecting that contact info and collecting that zero-party data. You want to do that as quickly and as soon as you can. You want to do it so that the first time they come, they give you some piece of contact info. And you do that by providing value. Something like a quiz or a conversational pop-up drives direct value to the customer. And that value is, let me help you. Let me give you a recommendation. It is shocking how many people will engage with those experiences. We see some stores where a third of people who land on the website go immediately towards the quiz because they want that help, they want that guidance, and they want confidence in what they're purchasing. And the result is that they end up spending more, somewhere between 20 and 30% higher AOVs for customers who go through a conversational experience like a quiz than those who don't. And so that's like a little bit of like,
no, that makes perfect sense to think of it in 2 different ways. The other part that I think, and this is, I think, why our chat just went off the hook, is the quizzes that you're showing. I mean, I think we've all been pinged with certain quizzes on like, and they aren't personalized. They don't feel like the ones that you showed in your presentation are just so slick. They're like, this is what the TikTok generation's doing. This is how oh my God, of course I want the eyeliner that's like this. I mean, of course. And then me, of course I want somebody to tell me what shoes I'm supposed to, like, I'm actually only looking for, black high-heeled boots, whatever it is. I just wonder, is it, obviously the design makes a big difference and all, and like the thought process, but how do you get to that place where it doesn't feel like a spammy, a spammy, intake form versus something that, because yours, it's beautiful. It's great.
So there's actually,
it makes it more fun. It's totally gamified. It makes it way more fun versus something that feels like
there's a couple things I think about. This is Curlsmith. This is an Octane AI customer. They have a beautiful quiz with us too. But to kind of like answer those questions, one is about fun, right? And so like, it's like, it's gotta not feel like I'm like putting in things. This is where like survey tools miss the mark, because people don't want to answer like, here's a dot, like the thing. They want to have like fun. And so imagery is really important for a great quiz, pop-up, conversational experience. You can see with Curlsmith, they have like fun, happy photos, and that helps you figure out like what kind of pattern I want. So instead of textually describing, visually describing, just makes it easier for people to go and like figure out which kinds of things. And so I might have to ask a couple questions, and then I can see in this one, for example, to give me kind of like the progress, which is a really good way to go and like, get people through and see like, what kind of things I have with my hair, etc. We'll get quickly over to the end. Do I want it to foam? They have a really high, there's like detail is like the other one. If I want to feel like it's personalized, it really does have to go through that like level of detail to feel like it is actually a personalized recommendation. And consumers are looking for that personalized recommendation now. And I can see, by the way, I can see Marius and Tracy Barton talk about it. They're like doing these like personal recommendations of like the right like skincare routine you need, because they're the masters at that. You want to have that confidence, and you just need to ask enough questions to feel like, to actually just give the right recommendation. This is what you would just do if someone came up to you in the street as an e-commerce owner and being like, I really need help. Like, help me figure out what the product like I actually need. You would ask these exact questions, and probably this many questions, to go and do that. So just do that with the website. Act as if your experiences from the e-commerce website and from your SMS and from your email should feel like they're coming from a human. And if they feel like they're coming from a marketing engine, that's not it.
what I think is really interesting, it's almost like the sales associate. Any type of sales associate, you're at a beauty counter and there's a sales associate and you're like, my skin's dry. What do I do? This is acting as a, we don't have sales associates right now. We really don't. We don't have the intake person, it's just a different thing. There's a lot of different ways, but through technology, amazing, Ben, amazing. We're very, very impressed and fantastic presentation. Excited to see you in person 2022. It's wonderful to have a friendship that I've known you for so many years, and to see you evolve in such a huge way is it's great. You're really transforming an industry.
I'm going to drop 2 other links in the chat just for everyone. We write detailed guides on how to do a lot of these things. So we have one guide on more in depth on zero-party data marketing, even more in depth. My CEO, co-founder Matt wrote, and then there will be another one I'll post in a second, especially probably for those who are really thinking about like their email marketing and like how to really personalize their email. It goes in depth on how to do that. If you're using Klaviyo or something else, how to like actually implement this in your email so that you can start benefiting from this like today.
Awesome. Thanks, Ben. Have a wonderful rest of 2021. See you in 2022 live. Can't wait.